A simple strip of fabric saved 50,000 lives a year more than 50 years ago, but some car makers were even ridiculed for fitting it. Today, we look at the humble seatbelt. The simple seatbelt has come a long way in 120 years. Invented by aviator George Cayley in the late 1800s for gliders, the first patented car seatbelt appeared in New York taxis in 1885 when an Edward J. Cleghorn devised a system not unlike a current climber's harness to keep New York tourists secured to a fixed object. As cars began to appear in the early 1900s, safety belts were used not for crash safety, but to keep occupants tied inside a car over bumpy roads. Henry Ford himself hired a man named Barney Oldfield to race his cars, and in 1923, when Oldfield raced in the Indianapolis 500, his team decided he should probably wear a seatbelt at a time when it was thought safer to be ejected from a crashing car. On public roads by the early 1930s, 30,000 people were dying each year from motor vehicle accidents. Preston Tucker fitted seatbelts to his first cars in 1946 before being persuaded into thinking that seatbelts suggested his cars were actually unsafe. Then Nash Cars in 1949 became the first car to offer factory-installed lap belts bolted to the car's frame. But 98% of owners cut them off because they thought they were a nuisance. In the early 50s, two Swedish engineers helped create the standard three-point safety belt that covered both shoulder and lap. At the same time, two American engineers patented their three-point lap sash safety belt, one of them developing a locking mechanism that would hold the belt if an occupant was thrown forward. The 50s was a coming of age for the safety belt, eventually. Ford was actually ridiculed by GM for offering so many safety features, and after Ford's sales plummeted, with just 1% of buyers opting for them, Ford didn't even offer safety belts in 1957 models. It wasn't until 1968 that seatbelts were deemed mandatory, and with Volvo fitting the lap sash belt as standard since 1959, in the space of just 5 years, the number of safety belt manufacturers went from 8 to 80. The 70s brought lighter, stronger, and more flexible polyester belts, which form the basis of what we use today. Victoria, Australia was typically the first place in the world to introduce a seatbelt law. And while tech improvements like retractable belts and pretensioners have refined the design, and visual and audio warning systems have helped, some say annoyed, the end result is that road fatalities have significantly reduced thanks to the seatbelt, and ultimately thanks to the appealing sights and sounds of New York.